We're here to talk about the kids jury, and most of our time together is actually going to be spent speaking with our two special guests here. I'll introduce myself, and then I'll let our guests introduce themselves. My name is Stacey, and I'm with Insight Kids.
My name is Sophie.
And my name is Oscar, and I think before we start, I should say Ni men hao, everybody. Hola todo el mundo. Bonjour tout le monde. And Oatsui nakao yokoso.
Fini?
Arigato.
I don't even know how to follow that up. Hi, I'm Lana, Castleman. I'm the editor of Kidscreen magazine. And I'm just here making, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kidding. Stacey's going to primarily walk us through what occurred at the kids jury and how the kids sort of came to the decisions they did in choosing their favorite shows.
So we had a lot of fun yesterday. We spent about 3 hours screening programs with kids as young as 4 and as old as 14. So we just start off by giving you a glimpse of what our day was like yesterday in the screenings.
I think it should probably be more real people instead of animations.
Try to put yourself in our shoes, like think about what we would want to watch, and also think, like, try and relate it to our lives in a way, not specifically, but something that we can relate to. So, friendship and school.
I like cartoons when it's like a bit of reality. Maybe you can imagine yourself in it.
Well, it's got something to it. Suspense and mystery.
It gives you a feeling that you want to see the TV episode, to get you into it, to make you want to keep seeing the episodes.
You don't want it too easy to understand, because then it just gets boring.
Because everyone can understand it.
So that was our day yesterday, and we are fortunate enough to have 2 of our special guests from yesterday join us today. And we'll be talking with both Sophie and Oscar about what they thought of the jury entrance, but also some of their favorite things about TV in general. So, I'm going to start off by giving us a little bit of context. Yesterday we watched 15 shows in 3 hours, targeted at 3 distinct age groups. And I'm going to spend just a few moments talking about each of the age groups from a developmental point of view, so that we kind of bring the kids' perspective to the table. And Lana's going to speak to each of the age groups in terms of what she considers and looks for in properties for each age group. So I guess we'll start with preschool.
Sure. It's always the beginning. So part of what I did was there were far more than 15 entrants in the Kids Story contest, so they had to be pre-screened and narrowed down to 3 groups of 5. So I was on the initial sort of set round of judging to get that group narrowed down. I've been with Kidscreen probably, well, 8 years now, so I've seen a lot of preschool shows. Fortunately, because of the position I'm in, I get to see a lot of things from their very earliest stages when they're in development, and some of the projects that we saw through here, they were also entered at various stages. Some had fully completed episodes, some were just animatics, some were the Bible, the pitch Bible. So that makes it a little bit more difficult to judge. It's not exactly an apples to apples comparison when you see something that's fully realized versus something that, an idea of what could be. However, when I'm looking at preschool stuff in particular, I mean, it's an area, that genre of programming, as we know, has a much longer shelf life than a lot of others. The audience refreshes itself by nature every 3 years because there's a new generation of preschoolers born that frequently. So stuff sticks around a lot longer, and things that have been very successful tend to have a lingering influence on what comes after them. So right now, I look for stuff that is completely stylistically different and unusual in terms of, obviously, you're looking for character design that is both appealing and original, not always easy to find. Stories that are paced appropriately for a preschool audience, which often means much slower than what an adult is used to or what older kids are used to. And something that's maybe just that's undefinable, that is just that little hint of originality. I also look at it from licensing and merchandising perspective with preschool in particular, because it's such an important facet of that business if I'm judging it on a commercial basis. So some of the stuff, immediately you can see where there might be a play pattern that's worked in, where there may be toy or ancillary product applications. Those sometimes move up a little higher if it looks like it's organic to the show and not like it's a play pattern that's had a character slapped on top of it. Because if it looks forced, any child they're not going to connect with that character, and they're not going to want the plush, they're not going to want to play with it. So those are the kind of things I'm looking at when I try to make a decision about that. And I did not actually pick the one that won, but we'll go on. The kids took something totally different.
What did you pick?
I think the Pillow Patch Pal? Patch Pillows. Thank you, Oscar. I think the Patch Pillows was one of the 5 I chose, but it was probably not my favorite of the badge. But I'm not going to say that because that will just get me in trouble with everybody else here.
So thinking, Lana's talking about what she looks for in terms of an industry perspective and also a commercial perspective in a property. At Insight Kids, when we're working with a preschool property, we take the lens of the kids' point of view and where they are in their particular stage of development. We always look at 3 key things, which is how is the property going to connect with where kids are in terms of their social and emotional development. At this age, for instance, kids are working on delaying gratification and frustration tolerance and working on transitions, which is why it's so important to have this nice slow pace that Lana was talking about in properties to help kids prepare and move from one kind of scene to the next. Cognitively, kids are still very concrete thinkers at this stage. They're still mastering cause and effect, so they may not be able to infer a plot line, for example, that doesn't show the cause and effect, but merely kind of verbalizes the cause and effect. And physically, preschoolers are still so very much in their bodies. If you've observed either in your own home or in airports or in parks, preschoolers, they're up and down, they're on their hands and knees, they're climbing all over furniture, they're very much absorbed in all of their 5 senses. And I think that that's perhaps a key reason why Patch Pillows was such a favorite, because it's such a tactile property, and that was the winner for the preschool age group. When we're looking at preschool properties, we look for 4 key things. The first is some kind of familiar setting or activity. So this doesn't mean that preschool properties can't have fantastical and incredibly imaginative elements to them. Preschoolers still want to tap into some kind of familiar routine or ritual. They want some degree of predictability in format, and that allows them to free up their energy to kind of imagine what the show is about rather than get oriented in the show and wonder what's going to happen next. They do need clear takeaway messages. It's very easy for them to misinterpret the takeaway. So the more explicit we can be about what the takeaway is, the better. And kids of this age are actually still developing their visual processing system. So we come into the world and our ears are kind of baked and our listening is kind of baked from the get-go. But our visual system is still developing up to the age of 7. So literally, kids of this age don't see the world the way we do. And that's why it's often important to have a clear visual field. So these were the nominees for this year. And it was a really nice assortment. One thing that we do when we're watching kids watch TV shows is we attend to eyes on screen. So over the course of these programs, did the kids stay visually engaged, or were there a range of fidget attacks happening, which often is the case? And considering the fact that they watched 5 of these in succession, and not all of them were kind of fully baked, even into pilot form, there really was a nice level of attention with all 5 of these properties throughout the screening. And Patch Pillows was voted as the winner. And again, I think one of the key elements to it that fascinated the kids, there were 2 things that I heard from them when they were talking about Patch Pillows after the screening. One was they would actually physically reach out. There was a feeling that you could touch these characters, and given that this age group is so in their bodies, there was something really visceral about wanting to touch or squeeze the characters.
Huggability is really important, I think, in preschool character design, for sure. If you want to reach out and hug them. Yeah.
Huggability.
Be your little friend.
Huggability factor.
Huggability factor, that's scientific too. No, just kidding.
And the second things that kids talked to me about was just the facial expressions. These faces provide a lot of room to observe how the characters are feeling. And this show, more than the other shows, the kids were able to describe how individual characters were feeling. And this really made them connected to what's going to happen to those characters because they had empathy for the characters. Do you want to do, should we keep going?
Yeah, because we don't have any preschoolers to comment because it's a little bit of a tougher audience for that.
So we don't have, yes, go ahead.
Hi.
Yes.
I heard that Bodge and Buddies was a very close second, and I was wondering if you had any comments about that, or if I could get any feedback.
Here's a microphone.
Hi, sorry. A little birdie told me that Bodge and Buddies was a very, very close second to Patch Pillows, and I just wonder whether you had any comments or any feedback that would be of interest to me on that one.
One thing that kids did talk about is the way the characters look. And while they didn't, it wasn't what they said, I think if you look at it on screen relative to the other characters, they are very iconic. So it's easy to kind of track foreground and background. And sometimes that's actually a challenge in preschool properties, that kids have a hard time discerning the foreground from the background and to know what they should visually attend to. So when they did talk about it, they talked about the funny way the characters move, and I think the fact that it's so iconically depicted probably supported that.
And to add, actually, some kids, when they were watching the program, I think what was cute and nice is that actually you would see their faces move, and you would have the difference. For example, there's a moment where they are going to go into the train. You see they're happy, so it's quite nice. It's no patchwork.
That's on the Patch Pillows. Mm-hmm.
And so it's quite nice because you really see when they're happy and when they're unhappy. There's a large difference in their faces, how you can see them, or they're like that, or like that, or when they're crying. I'm not sure if they cried a lot.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be happy.
They were
for kids.
tired. They were tired before
Yeah.
they got on the train, so they were sad about that. Okay. So if we'll grow up a little bit, Lana, you want to speak to a little bit what you had in mind when you were looking at the entries for the 7 to 10 group?
Yeah, they were primarily the animation, if I recall. All of them were. Oh, that's.
Oh, I can show you.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on.
Just needed
There
a
they are.
refresher.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all animated, which is still the most popular genre, obviously, for this age group. And again, there's a lot of things that, that you're always looking for, which is, especially with animation, is solid character design, good storytelling. Will a promising premise be able to play out over 52 episodes? Is it a one-trick pony? Are there enough layers and enough sort of characters and ability to develop a story over that time? Are they engaging? And also what happens, and you'll talk about this with the results of the kids, is this is a time when things become very gendered. So you get distinctively girl shows versus distinctively boy shows. And again, from a commercial perspective, and with licensing and merchandising obviously being a heavy factor, boys action 6 to 11 is the second biggest category second or maybe even closely tied with preschool, I'm not sure. But those are the two that, the big consumer products categories like toys, interactive, apparel. Well, girls have a better chance with apparel because they like clothes and all that business. But those are the two categories of programming that they're really looking at. So you get something like Skull Kids, which is easily and discernibly a toyetic property. Like it's been designed to inspire toys, but in a way that remains engaging and not forced. One of the ones that I found particularly interesting was Bombala, because it's a very music-based series, and I think they've been able to access a lot of I can't remember which music catalog, but they're using stuff like the Jackson 5 with these characters, and it makes it just that, it was different enough that I found it quite engaging, and the music's fantastic. So also something that's really important, I think, with this age group. Mm-hmm. So, that's basically the kind of stuff I'm looking for, which might not be so different, maybe apart from the licensing and merchandising stuff that a 7-year-old is looking at.
Yeah. Great. In terms of this age group, the kinds of things to keep in mind is that at the bottom end of this age group, kids are still very much kids, and they need a lot of encouragement and support and preparation for new experiences. They're starting to have this best friend will emerge around this age group, really moving from having playmates to best friends, and that's why I think it's no accident that in those properties we see a lot of ensemble casts with characters who have relationships between them. At this age, kids really thrive on orderly thinking, and this is when we see a lot of collecting happening, both collecting things like rocks and seashells, but also collecting different characters from properties, for example. And this is the beginning of really complex mathematical thinking, so it actually serves a developmental job as well. They're starting to be more orderly and less symbolic in their play, so less spontaneous pretend play is happening, but a lot of those imaginative synapses are fired in watching television, movies, reading books, and these sweep them away into imaginary places. At this age, they really have very refined motor skills, so in terms of interactive experiences are better able to complete complex gaming tasks and that kind of thing. When looking at properties for this age group, this is like the 6 to 11 age group, there's 4 key things. There's, of course, a million things that make an amazing property, but we see a pattern of 4 key things and things that consistently work. One is, of course, funny. Funny and funny and funny and funny. Having great humor that's physical comedy in particular is really sticks with this age group. The second is having high stakes situations. So in talking to the kids after, in this age group after they viewed some of the shows, I think some of the shows that were submitted fell down because kids did not have a clear sense of what was at stake for the characters. What was the purpose was a word that they used. So they wanted that kind of clear sense of what needs to happen here and what will go wrong if that doesn't happen. There's nothing like a little rule breaking to kind of see what happens when the rules are broken and then repaired again. And then opportunities to have interactive control, so to be able to play and have snacks with the property in other ways outside of the linear television format. But enough of me talking. I'd really love to hear from Sophie here. Sophie's on the upper end of the age spectrum of the kids who saw these properties. So Sophie's 10, right? And we are so lucky to have you here. We wanted to start off just by hearing about what is one of your favorite shows that you're watching at home that's on TV right now?
Well, I don't really know because I like most of Disney Channel's ones, and yeah.
What's so good about Disney Channel shows?
Well, I think they're magic.
They're magic.
And I like the stories they make too.
What's fun about watching things that are a little bit magical?
Well, I don't know, seeing colors, new creatures, it's nice.
Being able to see things that couldn't happen in real life?
Yes.
Yes. So these were the shows that Sophie saw yesterday. And I'd love to hear Sophie's point of view. Her favorite, when we were talking yesterday, was a different one than the winner. So I thought it'd be really interesting to hear what you liked about that. Your number one favorite was Groove High, is that right? Yeah? So tell us what you liked about Groove High.
Well, what I liked is the story, because it was I like the friendship and stuff like that. I think it was nicely drawn on this. I think it was nice.
So you like the look of it?
Yeah, and it's set in a high school for the performing arts, if I'm not.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think.
And did that interest you, the fact that they were all going to school to learn to dance and sing? And
Yes.
did you think maybe you wanted to try?
Yeah, maybe.
So Groove High was your first choice, and then your second choice was Surviving Time Island. Tell us what you enjoyed about that one.
Well, I thought it was quite cute, and it was I don't know, but I would like to see the end of this film.
Just to see what unfolds.
Yes.
Yeah. What is it that Groove High and Surviving Time Island, do they have anything in common?
Well, I like the friendship, maybe, and yeah.
So they both have a friendship element. And this is talking to lots of girls at the end of the day yesterday. There was often a gravitation towards these kinds of properties because they have an ensemble cast of a group of friends. And as Lana said, we do see a lot of gender separation at this age group. And many of the boys gravitated to Skull Kids because it very quickly read as an action show and can imagine playing it really quickly. And what's interesting is that Hick City was actually the winner of this, and I think that Hick City, for those of you who have not seen it, is there's very little dialogue, and it's primarily physical comedy for the duration. And this really is, physical comedy and humor is the great uniter in this age group, and this is really what kind of cut through those gender differences, and I think led to it being the winner with both boys and girls.
And that's largely what's made SpongeBob, for example, so popular with this age group for so long.
For, over 10 years.
And all the broadcasters still want animated comedies. I can say that after having met with a number of them yesterday. They're still looking.
Okay. Good. So we'll grow up a little bit to the 11-year-olds. Lana, do you want me to show you the ones that were up on the slate? These were the nominees. Can you tell us what went through your mind when you were?
Yeah, I mean, this probably out of all of them is the toughest age to judge for and to create for, I think, because you're in a situation where these kids, especially towards the upper end of the demo, they're watching adult TV quite regularly. I mean, they are still tuning into a lot of the live action comedies and dramedies on the children's specific programs, but they're also watching stuff like CSI.
Dr. House.
Apparently House is very popular. with certain segments of the demo. And so you're competing with very grown-up stories and, you know, frankly, shows that have much larger budgets and can afford the absolute best writers. And you're walking, I think, a very fine line between creating stuff that is age appropriate. I mean, there are certain things you don't want to show, but at the same time, you're not condescending to the audience and making it seem like, oh, you know, you never want it to appear like you're talking down to this age group and portraying them sort of inauthentically. So, I mean, that's really what I was looking at for in this category, because in terms of licensing and merchandising, by the time it gets to this stage, it's very limited, and it's very hard to mount L&M programs around live action shows. It just is, unless you have, you know, something like Disney's been able to manufacture their own network stars and have a shot with, you know, something like a Miley Cyrus for, you know, 3 or 4 years with the height of Hannah Montana. But otherwise, it's just very difficult, because these kids, they are not playing with toys anymore. They very rarely wear expressions of their, you know, favorite shows on a T-shirt, for example, or at least not publicly. I'm sure you probably found that. Maybe they'll wear like the pajamas at home, but they're not going to wear it at school. It's very much more switched to fashion brands and things like that by that age. So it's like a bit more difficult. Apparently, like Abercrombie. Any others?
Ralph Lauren.
I was going to say Polo.
Polo Ralph Lauren.
Yeah, so it becomes much more difficult. So really, I was just looking at stuff that would have a story that would be able to sort of engage this age group and not talk down to them, and it would be, you know, somewhat original. And the winner, Dig Deep Creek, I actually quite liked, because it has a sort of supernatural element and a mystery. And the actors seemed very real to me, the kids that they used, and it wasn't like I thought that they were making a show for 11-year-olds in the guise of a, you know, well, I guess it is for 11-year-olds, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Like older kids, like teens, would probably watch this as well. I thought that was quite good. And the flying squirrel I really liked, because it was just so crazy and different. And I thought, well, maybe that has a real chance to cut through, because I hadn't seen anything really like that before.
And the kids were really attracted to flying squirrels as well. I think just visually, it looked really unique and different for them.
It was in a very early stage too, so there was no completed animation.
Right.
I mean, I did look. I think there were like 100 and something odd entries altogether, so I saw a lot of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a little hard to tell, but the premise I thought it could be pretty compelling.
So in this 11-year-old age group, this is when kids are really starting to venture out into the world. They're much more social and are beginning to develop, hang out in bigger groups of friends, usually of the same sex, so boys with boys and girls with girls, although not always the case. This is not true with Oscar. Kids of this age can be self-conscious, but Oscar is actually very comfortable expressing himself.
Yes, of course.
Yes. And really have sophisticated media and technology skills, and are usually the IT person in the household by this age. This age group is great to play with in terms of developing creative content, because they are quite sophisticated thinkers. So they're able to think quite abstractly. They're able to delay gratification, and so, for example, to wait through multiple episodes for a conclusion. They can understand concepts without direct experience, so it just enables us to kind of play with bigger and more fantastical ideas. And physically, this is when the hormones are starting to kick in with a whole new journey on the romantic front. But also in terms of like sports and those kinds of things, kids are really reaching their prime and kind of mastering their ability at whatever sport they've committed themselves to. So shows at this age group are really helping them balance this transition into the teen years. And I think part of this, which is the appetite of this age group, which is often overlooked, is how much kids in this age group are still craving content that helps them feel like a kid. and continue to be in a kid world and a kid space. So they're still very attracted to properties like SpongeBob and Toy Story that feel safe and familiar and comforting and are funny and witty. They're also looking at stuff that is exploring older social behaviors. So what is middle school going to be like? What is high school going to be like? What should I know about so that I can plan? Looking at where the boundaries are and looking at places to kind of break the rules a little bit and to access edgier content. As Lana was saying, at this age group, you're competing with everything that's on TV for kids and almost everything that's also on TV for adults as well. And at this age, there's a particular fascination with role models who are perceived to be really talented, so uniquely talented, people who have become successful because they have a unique strength and talent. I'd love to hear from you, Oscar, your opinions not only of the winner, but of whichever shows here you liked during the screening.
Yes. So first of all, I have to say I personally chose Dig Deep Creek because I found that in the introduction, I was already full of anticipation from the first second to the last second. And actually I was like almost like stuck to my chair and looking at the film because I actually like action films, and I found in my anticipation that it could maybe be like in Koh-Lanta, if anybody knows, or in the 10 Little Indians, in French, Les Dix Petits Nègres from Agatha Christie. You know, where one gets kicked out and then one other, and then there's only one left. And what I like even more is that in the introduction, at one moment, you see a man who's holding a candle. So this has nothing special. But what's happening is he says to one of the girls, "You will never escape." So you start anticipating even more, how are they going to escape? Are they going to try to break a rule? Or is there going to be another portal bringing them back to their normal world? So it's quite nice.
Great. And this one was the winner. So Oscar's favorite was the one that won in this category. And I think related to the gender discussion that we had in the younger age group, I think one thing that Dig Deep Creek had going for it that led for it to be the winner is it had an ensemble cast of friends. And in talking to the girls afterwards, they really liked the dynamic between the friends/enemies, that there was this group of kids who some of them liked each other, some of them didn't like each other, so there were lots of social dynamics there. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, there was like the suspense, anticipation, challenge, which is how the boys described the show. So boys and girls both liked the show, but when they described it in their own words, they described the show fairly differently. You wouldn't necessarily know that it was the same show. What was your take on something like New Tasty Stories, Oscar?
Well, New Tasty Stories, I found it fun the way in stop motion. So first of all, I have to say stop motion. We need to have a round of applause for these Russian creators because stop motion takes a lot of time because you have to take image by image. So a round of applause, everybody. So yes, as I was saying, it's quite amazing in New Tasty Stories because they were able, even by doing stop motion, to create real recipes with a little tomato that's kneading the dough and other kind of stuff, like they're putting the water, pouring the water, you see them pour the water, they open the fridge. So there's a bit of reality in this, because like you have the feeling it's me and I'm opening the fridge, and you see how they pass from table to table with the little stick or the kind of stuff, so it's quite smart at the same time.
And they were funny.
They were funny. And so like it's funny because like between moments you see them pass Paris or Rome or other cities, like just like tomatoes passing, you know, it's normal. You just pass.
And you have to know what those cities look like to figure that out, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's something smart to that you have to know things in order to understand what's going on.
Yes.
So both Dig Deep Creek and Tasty Stories were kind of equally appealing to both boys and girls, and then we did see a gender split with boys afterwards gravitating more towards flying squirrels. I don't know if that's the case with you, Oscar. Of the three that we haven't talked about yet, Flying Squirrels, Heart and Soul, and Pick a Puppy, which one was your favorite?
Actually, I preferred Pick a Puppy. I found it really cute how it's sort of a TV reality show, and like people really find a cute dog, and so you learn a bit about the dogs, which dogs your kids like. And it's quite funny because you see people who always wanted to have a dog, and then they have their best dog in front of them, they adopt it, you see the kids are super happy. Okay, even though sometimes it was maybe a bit exaggerated.
So getting a pet seemed to be like a universal theme that lots of kids could connect with. And girls were more interested in Heart and Soul, both the friendship dynamics and the music element.
It's largely about a girl band.
It's a girl band. And boys were very clear that they thought that it was a show for girls. And on Flying Squirrels, many girls were very clear that they thought that that was a show for boys. And
Well, it was sort of reminiscent to me when I was looking at the pitch materials. Like it could, if it was pushed far enough, play in an Adult Swim space.
Yep.
Like it was that sort of, you know, if you're familiar with the Adult Swim programming, it's always irreverent and it's always pretty crude, but very funny and strange. And if you pushed it far enough, it could go that way. I think it could go that much older.
yeah. Were you going to say something? Because you saw these as well. Yeah?
Well, my favorite one was Pick a Puppy because the puppies are fairly cute. And yeah.
I actually thought that one was a good idea for a format.
Yeah.
I mean, it would travel really well internationally, and if you were looking for a co-viewing show, that would be the one
Yeah.
out of all of those, I think, that would get a family to sit down.
And that was something that kids liked about it, is that it took place in a family setting and they could watch how the family made a decision together, which is something that's really relatable.
And actually to add, I find in a business way that Flying Squirrels is quite intelligent because it's a cartoon, you can translate it easily in other languages. And New Tasty Stories, well, New Tasty Stories, you can't translate it because there are no voices.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah. So we have some time left over, and we were wondering if anyone in the audience had questions for our expert panelists here, for Oscar and Sophie. We would love to hear them.
Does anybody have a question? Oh, right here's.
Oscar, how old are you?
I'm 11, actually soon 12. Why?
Going on 40.
Why?
No, congratulations. You have a way to know the things and the way you talk about the whole experience. You seem like someone a lot older.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
A question right here.
Oh yeah, thank you for sitting in front of a room and talking. I'd be scared of doing it, so congratulations. I was going to ask, when you like a TV show, do you also like to kind of experience it elsewhere, like go to a website or play games or use mobile apps based on it? Do you kind of like to do other stuff with it rather than just watch it on TV?
I also go on YouTube sometimes, for some videos like, I don't know if you know Palma Show. No, it's just like a little sketch time and talking about people. I mean, two people that are making jokes, or like Happy Tree Friends, if anybody knows.
You watch Happy Tree Friends?
It's cute.
And bloody.
And it's a cartoon.
Yes, it is.
Sophie, how about you? When you're watching a TV show, do you ever go and do other things outside of TV, like an app or on the internet?
Well, sometimes when I watch Disney channels, sometimes there's films, and when you go on their websites, you can play. They made some games to go with the film, and sometimes I try them, and yeah.
And to add, sometimes I do download some apps from
From which shows?
Some TV shows like I watch sometimes. Okay. Like, for example, Mighty F1 to see Dr. House again on your iPod.
Hi, can I ask Sophie a question?
Of course.
Sophie, hello, I'm here. This way. Over here. Hi there. Just wanted to ask you, you identify some children's shows as for boys and others for girls. Are there boys' shows that you watch?
Well, I think some of them, yeah. Well, there's some of them I liked, like Bombalaya. It was, well, I think it was for girls and for boys,
Right.
but they were nice, yeah.
Are there shows that are on TV right now that you think, oh, that's maybe more of a boys show, but I like to watch it too?
Not really, because I watch for boys and for girls, because sometimes it could be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And can I ask the same question to Oscar? Do you ever watch a girls? I mean, you can tell us. We're your friends. Do you ever watch a girls' show? Do your friends?
Not really, but I do watch sometimes some stretched films, like some films for maybe a bit tinier kids. Like when I'm bored and I have nothing to do, I just go on TV and go on Pee-wee, where you learn how to color your paper.
You go on Pee-wee?
It's cute.
Slumming it with the little kids. Thanks.
Hi. Thank you guys for all of the insight that you're giving us, especially the kids. Excellent. And Oscar, you're going to grow up to be like president or something.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask both of you. So when you watch a show, what kind of stuff would you be interested in buying afterwards? So if there's like, I don't know, kind of merchandise, so like bags or T-shirts or whatever, all of that stuff that shows usually do on the side. What kind of stuff are you guys interested in buying?
Downloading the free apps. Only free apps.
Only free apps. Okay. Anything else? Like DVDs, games, things like that?
Maybe some games.
Okay, but not a T-shirt.
No.
No.
Sophie?
Except for Angry Birds.
I like buying games to go with the film, because like that it's a bit remembering the film, and it's like a little bit changing the film, and yeah.
Say more about that. How do games change the film?
Well, when you play the game, you're usually a character, and so you can change the clothes of the characters, change, I don't know, anything, their houses, all this. That's what I like.
Got it. So you can take a story that you're familiar with and then change it in some fun ways.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Oh, we have a question next to me.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I was just wondering if there's anything you would like to see on television. Is there something that you're not seeing right now? If you could make a TV show, what would you want to see?
Well, maybe not making a TV show, but if only I had more time to see Dr. House on TV for the moment.
Okay. Other than searing medical dramas, is there anything that you don't think you're getting?
Maybe not enough crime scenes.
Sophie?
Well, I don't really know. Sorry.
Not really? No.
I don't have any answers right now.
Or maybe more cook shows. How to make cookies. Because I would love to
Like
make
cooking
cookies.
shows?
Yes, but just only to make desserts. You see?
That's true. I don't think there are any kid-focused cooking shows
Dessert only.
that concentrate on dessert.
Like, the cookie channel, where all day they teach you how to make a cookie, a chocolate cookie, dark chocolate cookie.
Yes, I get it.
Okay. The foam chocolate cookie.
Are there any other questions?
We won't bite you. You can ask any question.
I don't know. Okay. I think we're all set. So thank you, everyone, and we'll all be up here if there's any questions that people wanted to ask Oscar and Sophie, but were too shy to ask in a group. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
再见. Goodbye.
Bye.